Hello everyone, I'm Suraj Adhikari. I'm a PhD student at College of Public Health at University of Nebraska Medical Center. Today I'm going to talk about cost of non-fatal agriculture related injuries in the central state region of the US. The data needed for the study was obtained from the Central State Center for Agriculture, Safety and Health, which is housed in University of Nebraska Medical Center. And I would like to thank Dr. Lorena Bacaglini and Dr. Risto Rautanian who helped me to conduct this study. I'm going to start my presentation by providing a short background on the agricultural injury status. Uh, Agricultural injury has the third highest fatality count, which is 573. It has a highest fatality rate, which is 23.2 per 100,000 full-time employee. Similarly, it has one of the high non-fatal injury rate, which is 5.2 per 100 FTE in 2019. If you see in the figure on your left, it shows the fatal injury rate in all industry versus agriculture industry. The fatal injury rate in all industry is 3.5, whereas the fatal injury rate in agriculture is almost 7 to 8 times higher than the all industry combined. Similarly, on the figure on your right, you can see the non-fatal injury rate in all industry is 2.2 or higher, but it is 5 or higher in the agriculture industry. In this slide, I am going to provide you some of the cost information that are associated with the injuries. The National Safety Council estimates that the injury costs around 171 billion and 42,000 per medically consulted case in 2019. This is the data for all the industry combined in the US. The Lee et al. And his team, they estimated that ag-related injuries cost around 8.6 billion in 2021 dollar value. Similarly, the research conducted by Risto et al. They reported that ag injury cost around 2.2% of the net farm income. From the previous slide, we can conclude that the agriculture injury has a significant cost, and they have very high counts and rates, and there are very limited study that is directed towards the study of agriculture injury and cost. So there is a huge knowledge gap. And quantifying cost is an important part of understanding the burden from injuries and implementing prevention program. So the objective of our study is to quantify non-fatal ag injury frequency and cost based on data from the Central State Center for Agriculture Safety and Health surveillance program. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the methods that were used to conduct our study. CS-CAS has been administering survey on the farm safety issues to the states that are in the central region of the US. We used data of the year 2018 and 2020 in our study. There were 7 central region states that were chosen for this study, and they are Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Minnesota, South Dakota, and North Dakota. The survey were administered on farm demographics, the work time percentage, the number of injuries in the last 12 months, the health condition of the farmers or ranchers, the cost, the injury, the exposures, and the preventive techniques. And the information were gathered for up to 3 operators, primary operators, secondary and tertiary operators. This is the flowchart diagram for our study. We used a farm market ID database to select the farms or ranchers for our study. Those farms or ranchers who has annual income of 5,000 or more, they were selected for this study. And farm market ID database is a comprehensive and detailed agriculture database which is often used by the different industry or businesses. In 2018, 16,826 farms were selected randomly, and they were stratified by state. Similarly, in 2020, 17,328 farms were selected randomly, and they were stratified by state. In 2018, the total number of farms or ranches who responded were 2,982. Similarly, in 2020, the response numbers was 2,446, and the total number of operators who responded in 2018 survey were 4,423, whereas in 2020 it was 3,492. And combining 2018 and 2020 response, the total farms and ranchers who responded were 5,428, and the total operators on those farms and ranchers were 7,915. And out of these total operators, 953 operators had injury, whereas 6,886 operators didn't have any kind of injury. In this slide, I'm going to talk about the injury cost calculation. First of all, the injury cost for the most serious injury during the past 12 months was calculated, and after that, the second and third injury cost was calculated by multiplying the most serious injury cost by half and one-fourth. The injury cost for any non-fatal injury and serious injury was calculated. In our study, the serious injury is defined as any injury seeking medical care and at least half a days of or lost work time. And the injury costs were divided into direct and indirect cost. Direct cost includes the medical cost, whereas indirect cost includes lost work time, loss of quality of life due to pain and suffering, administrative and other. The medical cost comprises out-of-pocket cost and the cost paid by insurance, whereas the lost work time was based on the reported number of lost work days, which was further multiplied by estimated earning per day in agriculture sector, which is $25 per hour, or approximately $200 per day. Here, the data was analyzed for injury rates for any and serious injury per all and full-time equivalent operators. Similarly, total and average non-fatal cost per injury, per cost case, per operators, either full-time or not full-time, and per farm was calculated. And if there were any kind of fatal injuries reported in the survey, the total fatal injury cost was also calculated. It was calculated by subtracting the age of fatal injury from 65, which was multiplied by 2000, which is total hours a person can do in a year, and multiplied by 25 and hourly wages. Similarly, multiple descriptive statistic and cross tabulation were designed, and MS Excel 2016 was used for the data visualization, whereas SAS University Edition 3.8 Basic Edition was used for the data analysis. Now, in these slides and the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the results of our analysis. In the table here, you can see the counts and percentage of operators reporting injuries by different demographic characteristics. If you see in the age group of 45 to 64, they have the higher number of injuries, whereas in the gender, the male has a higher number of injuries than female. Similarly, if you see by the state, North Dakota has the higher number of all injuries, whereas South Dakota has the highest number of lost time injury. And if you see the figure on your right, it shows the injury rate among all and full-time equivalent operators. In all operators, the total injury rate is 15, whereas lost time injury rate is 7.2 per 100 FTE. Similarly, in FTE operator, the total injury rate is 19.9, which is close to 20, and the lost time injury rate is 9.6 per 100 FTE. The table 2 shows the cost descriptive of first injury with incurred medical cost. The total number includes the first injuries count only, whereas the sum includes the sum of cost for first injuries only. After calculating total number of injuries for all injuries and total sum, the mean cost was 8,804. Similarly, for the lost time injuries, the mean medical cost was 16,355. And the table 3 shows the how the lost time cost was assessed. And here we have different lost time categories, from no lost time to up to more than 30 days or more. And these are the assigned days, which is based on the finished meta insurance data. And for the number of days lost, which is more than half a day, the assigned days is 0.25. Similarly, for the 30 days or more, it is 139 days are assigned, which is based, as I told earlier, from the Finnish meta insurance data. And here is the total number of response in our survey, and this total number of response was multiplied by the total assigned days, from where we get the total lost days. And the total lost days was further multiplied by 200, which is the daily uh, agriculture rate, wage rate, and we got the total of $4.1 million of work lost time cost. In this figure, we can see the distribution of injury counts and medical cost across the different injury exposures. Here, livestock, machinery, ground, floor and surface, hand tool, tractor, truck and other vehicles, power tool, building structure, and ATV were the different um, injury exposure. Livestock had the highest number of counts of injuries with 13.4 thousand cost per injury. Similarly, a truck and other vehicle had the highest cost associated for the injuries, which is around 19,000, and ATB had the second highest cost associated with each injury, which is around 17,000, and all these costs are in US dollar. In this figure, we can see the average cost burden associated with various injury and cost variables. If you see the average cost per cost case for the all injury, the total amount is $26,000. Similarly, for the lost time injury, the average cost per cost case was 37,000. Here, the average cost per injury case for all injury was 10,500, close to 500, and similarly, the lost time injury cost for average cost per injury case was 20,000. Here, the average cost per operator for all injury was around 1,600, whereas for lost time injury it was 1,500. The average cost per full-time equivalent operator was around 2,100 for all injuries, and it was around 1,900 for lost time injuries. And finally, the average cost per farm for all injury was around 2,300, whereas it for lost time injury was around 2,100. From our study, we found that livestock is the highest is injury exposure with the highest injury, which is fourth highest non-fatal injury exposure nationally. The injury rate calculated for serious injury is 9.6 per 100 FTE, which is almost double than the that is reported on BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. The average cost of all injury per farm was to 2.3% of the average net cash income for farm businesses, which is similar to the study that was conducted by Lay et al. In 2001 and Risto et al. In 2005. The average medical cost for OSA recordable injury, which is lost work time in our case, is 20,248, which is significantly lower than the injury cost that is reported by the National Safety Council. Here, in our study, found total non-fatal injury cost around 12.4 million, whereas the fatal injury cost was 5.8 million. The reason why the fatal injury cost is higher because the people who were fatally injured in the farm were very young. And here the non-fatal injury cost excludes quality of life cost, but also it is very concerning and serious as assessed by Lay et al. In conclusion, although the quality of life cost wasn't incorporated in our study, it has a significant cost, which is around 20,000 per injury case. The rate of injury for a full-time equivalent operator was 9.6 per 100 FTE, which is almost double than that is reported in Bureau of Labor Statistics. The total cost of injury was 12.4 million, where medical cost accounts for 8.3 million cost, and lost work time was 4.1 million. Truck and other vehicle has the highest cost associated with the injury by it, and ATV has the second highest injury cost per injury. The average cost for all injury per operator is 15,196, whereas it is 2,083 for a full-time equivalent operator. And the average non-fatal injury cost per farm was 2.3% of total net cash income for US farm businesses. Thank you so much for listening my presentation. If you have any question, please feel free to contact in one of the following email address. Thank you so much.